Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a sort of special episode of the Last Edit with a pretty epic film, probably the most epic we've talked about, the longest certainly, which is John Woo's Red Cliff, and it's the original Asian or Chinese cut, which runs a little over 5 hours. Of course, it got distributed in Europe and internationally in a cut of like 2.5 hours, with large segments of the movie missing, sort of making it even more incoherent than it already is. And yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't know that it really counts as obscure because it's one of the biggest blockbusters in Asian history. But I don't know that there are a lot of Westerners who are really familiar with it, which is one of the reasons why I chose it, and the fact that we got Total War Three Kingdoms coming up, where the historical battles are actually feature the Battle of Red Cliff, which this movie is about. Of course, it is set during the Three Kingdoms period in China. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, because I think this is a movie where there isn't really a whole lot of exposition, there isn't a whole lot of explanation, and I think you can very easily get lost if you don't know the historical context, if you don't know who these people are. I think it can be very difficult to sort of tell the characters apart, which is something that people have also sort of complained about with Game of Thrones a bit, because there are a lot of characters here. So what I'm really curious to hear first off is, were you able to sort of parse that? I don't know how familiar you are with Three Kingdoms, or if you've played like the Dynasty Warriors games or anything, or were you able to parse the characters and separate them and sort of keep track of them and what was going on, or did you feel lost at times?
No, not lost. I'm used to watching historical epics, and a lot of them do tend to be incredibly convoluted, and not just in plot terms but in character terms. But they were all distinguishable and unique characters, and like disclaimer, I won't remember all the names. I've got
Yeah,
my
that's fine.
phone in front of me.
And also another disclaimer. We're gonna mispronounce the names.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
absolutely.
we do not speak Chinese Mandarin. I'm going to do
Yeah.
my very level best at pronouncing them the way I heard them throughout the movie and the way I've heard others pronounce them. But we're gonna make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We are Westerners, so that just sort of comes with the territory.
Well, I mean, even like just speaking of that, Sun Quan is how you read it. It's actually Sun Tran in the
The
film.
Sun Quan, yeah.
So yeah, it's like okay, but you have to pick that stuff up as you watch
And
the
it's
film.
not the Zhou Yu, it's Zhou Yu.
Zhou Yu, yeah. So obviously those inflections are really
And it's not
difficult
Cao
for a
Cao,
Westerner
it's
to get.
Cao Cao.
Cao Cao, yeah. Very difficult to get.
Yeah.
But we'll do our best. Yeah, so I kept up with all the characters. I liked a lot of them. I'll tell you one thing I thought about this, which straight off the bat, this is the biggest epic I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of epics. We were talking not so long ago about the final battle of Game of Thrones and how huge it was. Nah, not really. It's kind of small, actually, by comparison. I mean, was it you told me yesterday, I think it was, that the Chinese government gave that this had the biggest budget of any Chinese movie ever made?
Yeah, at the time, yeah. They got
Yeah, I mean,
a minuscule budget in Hollywood terms, like $90 million, I think.
oh,
Which
okay,
isn't-
okay.
I mean, that's not.
Oh,
That's
compare,
like
yeah,
a drop in the bucket to like some of the Marvel DCU movies, right?
two,
So,
250 million you're looking at with those films. But yeah, I mean, you can see it all on screen. The scale, the depth of combat, the different battles that occur, both in the start and then that massive battle at the end, which is like 45 minutes, an hour almost. All these different phases of the battle. Bloody amazing to see, and some of the characters when they wade into the battle, the martial arts style of fighting is pulled off brilliantly. Some amazing moments. I think what it does really well for essentially a 5-hour film is there's not much of it which drags.
yeah,
You get bits in an hour and a half film that can drag at times. There's perhaps a little bit. For me anyway, in the very final battle when they're in the shield wall, and it goes on and on and on and on and on, a little bit too much for me. But apart
yeah.
from that,
And maybe like Sun Xiang's spy mission. Like that
Yeah,
drags on a little bit
yeah.
as well, kind of.
Well, because it's like three stages almost, rather than like she goes out, does this thing.
Yeah,
She's the princess, by the way. We'll get to all the characters in the plot. But just do overall first. But yeah, just little bits. But for a film that's 5 hours long, it's very breezy. It's very John Woo. I mean,
yeah,
and you can see that in the techniques. For anyone who's watched a John Woo film before, if you've never known this was the director, you should be able to sit down and after 20 minutes know it's John Woo. I mean, and some
yeah.
of that works, and some of that doesn't quite work. I think at
Yeah, I
times.
think we kind of touched about that yesterday, but like
Yeah,
the swooshing panning shots, like I got pretty tired of those pretty
yeah,
quickly.
yeah. And there are some things that just don't kind of belong in. I know you want to use different techniques and different ways of shooting,
Yeah,
especially with epics, but there are some things which just don't work in an epic. Like John Woo does his John Woo quick zoom all the damn time,
yeah.
and there's a bit later on where, and you're gonna have to pronounce her name again, the
Sun Chang
princess.
Chang.
Her Piggy has died. Oh, sorry, she's Piggy. The guy that she befriended in the opposition has died, and the Cao Cao's, and it does this really quick zoom into her eye.
Oh,
And you'll
it wasn't Piggy. He was. I don't remember his name, but she was Piggy in that relationship.
yeah, no, that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, right.
This I got it wrong first time, but
Yeah,
yeah, this other guy, and it does this incredibly quick zoom right into the eye.
but yeah,
It's like I don't get what you're getting from that. I don't know why. It's just John Woo. That's what John Woo does. But some of the John Woo works really well, especially the kinetic and frenetic battles that happen throughout
yeah.
the film.
I mean, there are also a couple of scenes where you have the slow motion with someone flying through the air, and then
Yeah,
someone jumping to catch them. That happens a couple of times. Like once with a baby, and another time
yeah,
with
yeah.
someone with a woman. Which is it's a bit much. But yeah, I mean, it's John Woo, and
Yeah.
it's just I'm a bit too conservative probably when it comes to filmmaking in that regard. But
I'm not. I'm not, and I am. It's just the fact of it's that genre.
yeah, it
Like
just,
I want to see beautiful.
it feels like it calls a
shot.
little too much attention to itself.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see the technique rather than it being more invisible
Yeah.
and forwarding the narrative and the action.
And rather
But-
than actually drawing you into the movie, it sort of pulls you out because you stop and
Yeah.
notice it.
Yeah, and you think about that thing that's just happened and think, does that feel like it's in the right context? Does that work in any way for
Yeah.
creating what the meaning's supposed to be? But regardless of that, it's still this behemoth of a movie that moves along quickly, has a great pace. It's got some really interesting characters as well. I mean, the emperor is basically being manipulated by the prime minister,
Yeah,
Cao Cao,
Cao
and
Cao.
Cao Cao.
Sorry, no,
I'm
Cao,
just-
not Cao.
Cao.
Cao Cao.
Right, there we go. Cao Cao.
GS. Like
The silent T. Okay. Well, he's basically been manipulating the emperor. Wants to go to war, take down the rest of the warlords as he sees them, as he's been doing for however long he's been in power, and he's a whitewash. The emperor, of course, he says yes. He meets opposition in the. They're not the Senate, but you know what I mean, and. That's it. He just establishes this war, and he's got the biggest army one of the biggest armies on earth. This uber powerful emperor with this powerful navy, and Liu Bei has been fighting. It's the Han Dynasty, by the way. I certainly don't know as much about it as you do, Silver. So correct me at any point.
no,
I'll
it
be
is the
wrong.
Han Dynasty. Yeah, it's the end of the Han Dynasty basically, which has
Okay.
ruled for 400 years up until from when Qin united China, basically the first Chinese emperor.
Right. Okay. So Liu Bei has been fighting them for a long time. He's got an amazing amount of refugees. He's losing troops and he needs help. So he sends it's his idea, the war strategist, Sun Tran, who is he's my favorite character in the whole thing. He's got this Zen-like calmness and he thinks about things in very particular ways. He has this amazing skill set. And I think later on, I just love him as a character throughout the whole thing. I think he's just wonderfully balanced. But he sets off to head to another clan, and again, what's the emperor of that clan's name? It's a younger guy.
Well, you mean Sun Quan
Yes,
for Wu, the Kingdom of Wu?
yeah, Kingdom of Wu, and he has to go and convince the emperor to form this alliance to try and stop Cao Cao.
Well, no, I mean now I'm confused because I mean the leader of Wu is Sun Quan, but the guy that gets sent as an emissary from Liu Bei, which is Zhuge Liang,
That's it. Sugar Yang. He's my favorite character in the whole.
Right. Or,
Just the way he
or
thinks about war.
Kong Min, as they call him throughout the film.
Kong Min.
Other
Yeah,
name.
Kong Min. And the relationship he forms with the young emperor's brother, during that alliance is just brilliant. It's the way they think alike and the way they bounce off each other.
They're not actually brothers though. They're just like brothers by like oath or friendship.
Yeah.
Like Sun Quan and Zhou Yu.
Zhou Yu, yeah. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of characters.
Yeah, there's a lot to keep track of.
But they're all really, really distinct, and the way that the alliance forms and they kind of start training together. There's loads of moments in this film when I was just like, oh man, there's a bit later on when they're kind of getting ready to go to war, and again, it's the guy with the beautiful wife as a lady who's the equivalent basically. He's the war strategist.
That's Zhou Yu.
Zhou Yu. So and Zhou Yu, his wife has sailed away to try and distract Cao Cao and give them a head start. Again, we won't cover everything because this is 5 hours and a massive film. But there's this event that takes place where everyone before the battle has been produced like rice dough balls, and all of his kind of generals, his peers, his soldiers, one by one go over to him and place one in his bowl out of respect for both what his wife's doing and what he's doing. And I was almost in tears. I completely
that scene was really effective.
Yeah, I just the way they all, that sense of camaraderie in such defiance in what is a situation where it's essentially the 300 going up against the Persians. Not severe, but the odds are stacked against them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean that scene is meant to sort of convey, no, we won't eat or celebrate now. We'll celebrate later after the battle. And express their like fraternity with their general.
Yeah, I also like the not so much on Cao Cao's side, but on the other side, there are so many wonderful characters that have unique, crazy fighting styles.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to remember any of these names properly, but there's the one who looks like Tripitaka with the giant hair that comes out, and he charges into and he'll just punch people down. There's a guy who shouts the God of War.
Bellows, yeah.
Yeah, and the other guy who you said was called the God of War. That's where he got the nickname. Guan Yu.
Well, we kind of Westerners kind of call him the God of War. For Chinese, as I understand it, for the Chinese, he's more like an avatar of loyalty, devotion.
Right. Okay.
He's basically like a role model.
Yeah. Zen and very calm in battle, and can use opponents' weapons and movement against them in a heartbeat. There's that bit when he's near the start. This is near the start-ish for the first big battle, where he's just surrounded, and every it's like a Kaplunk almost. It is. Yeah. It's military Kaplunk. He's sort of staffs all the way around him, and he just goes, breaks them all, grabs bits of them, and oh man, it's so cool. If there's one thing John Woo definitely knows how to do, it's shoot action, and it's just so cool.
And then there's Zhao Yun as well. The general who goes to rescue Liu Bei's child.
Yeah, and he's more, almost more classical in his fighting style.
Yeah.
Very clean and reactive, and will use height and stuff to be. There's that one bit where he's got the baby, and everything's coming down on it. He just drops to the floor flat, and then moves out, and they all stab themselves with spears. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. So yeah, it's the action is really, really, really exceptional. Apart from, like we said, occasionally the wrong technique will be used, or the slow-mo may be the wrong time, something like that. Little niggles here and there, but for the most part, it's a real cool thing to watch.
And what interests me a lot about this movie is that a lot of the things in it are enormously silly. Like Sun Shang's trip behind enemy lines and her like friendship with the common soldier who's impresses Cao Cao at a football game, basically gets a promotion to a division commander or a regiment commander, and I mean, and that whole relationship is so silly, but somehow, despite the silliness, it works, and it kind of.
I think it's because it's charming. Do you know? You think it's because it's charming? It feels
absolutely. I agree. I think you're completely right.
I like that character as well. I like the princess. I like Uh, she's a bit like Arya Stark, you know what I mean? A tomboy who doesn't want to be in a man, doesn't want to be in a woman's
Yeah,
world, doesn't want to be a lady, doesn't want to be a princess. She wants to affect the world and wants to fight along with them and prove herself. And boy, does she do that in the end.
yeah.
But I wish she could have done a bit more at the end because she kind of enters battle. She breaks from the shield wall, enters battle, and obviously she finds this soldier she befriended, and
But I think that's kind of, I mean, that's really where it, one of the reasons why that moment where when he dies is so resonant, because up until that moment, war's really been all fun and games for her.
yeah, yeah, and she's won everything. Everything she's tried to accomplish,
Yeah,
she's
and that
accomplished.
that's the moment when he dies is the moment when the reality of the war sort of resonates.
Yeah, yeah, I'd
And
say that definitely.
she finally realizes that. I mean,
Mm.
that's what she says when she first goes to see like Zhu Yu, Zhuge Liang, and her brother,
Mm.
and she sort of introduces herself, and she says she hasn't fought in battle yet, but she's looking forward to it. And then Zhu Yu replies with, "After I saw my first battle, I hoped I would never see another one." I
Mm.
think it is something
Yeah,
to that effect, and that's basically what is delivered in that scene. That same sort of impression, lasting impression on her.
yeah, yeah, definitely. There's some really kind of cathartic moments in the film. There's the horse uh, who's giving birth, and they can't breach because one of the
Yeah,
feet is caught, the hoof is caught inside, and the war strategist manages to like he knows about everything in some way, and he's been birthing cows before, so he goes in there, and the lady forces them all to make sure to promise that it won't be a war horse. It'll be just be a horse that's let to be free, and I thought that was a really beautiful moment.
it was. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite was a moment between Zhou Yu and his wife Jiao Qi, where they're basically I mean they're being really intimate, and she takes his head and puts it to her belly, and it's pretty amazing at that point that he doesn't realize that she's pregnant,
Mm.
and asks him what can he hear, and he says he can just hear the rain which is falling outside. And I thought that scene was really beautiful as well, in how that was handled. But yeah, there are a bunch of like those smaller moments in the film. I think, I mean, you mentioned the large scale of it to start off. I think really the historical epic it reminds me of the most, bizarrely enough, because it's not really sort of the grand action slow mo fare that this is, but the 1970s Napoleon. No, not
Oh
Napoleon.
yeah,
Waterloo.
Waterloo. Yeah,
Yeah, which sort of has battles on a similar scale, like the battle within where Wu or Sun Shanshan lures Cao Cao's cavalry into the turtle formation,
yeah,
and they close up around them. It's really reminiscent of the battle in Waterloo, where with Wellington's troops form up in square formations from to avoid or counter Ney's cavalry. Um, So it reminds me a lot of Waterloo to an extent,
mm.
just in terms of its scale.
We'll have to cover that at some point. That's a film I haven't seen in a very very long time. Very that's there somewhere, but Jesus, like, decades ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know the historical accuracy. I mean, there'll be
I
some
mean
of it, but
it's based on historical fiction. Like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a historical fiction
right,
novel that was written in I think like 15th or 16th century China,
right, okay.
which sort of
So,
mythologizes a lot of this. Like for instance, Cao Cao has generally been portrayed as a villain in modern media, especially like modern Western media, but like contemporary history suggests that he wasn't particularly more malicious than a lot of the other warlords at the time. But I
just
mean,
had
he
more
does,
power.
yeah, that, and like his most famous quote is, "I would rather betray the world than have the world betray me," which is runs very counter to the whole like fundamental Chinese Confucian precept of like selfless service for the
Mm.
greater good, um, which is a sort of I think another reason why he's sort of been relegated to the villain of history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're going against the original kind of traits of and the tenets of what the Chinese at the time believed
Yeah,
in.
I mean, having the gall to say it.
Yeah, yeah, out loud and quite brazenly, I'd
Yeah,
imagine, given what we see of the character. Yeah, I really liked it. I really, really liked it. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I've seen longer films. Andy Warhol's Empire. If anyone wants to watch an Empire State Building in a birdland for about, I don't know, a couple of minutes and then fly away again. It's 8 hours long. Get yourself a beer, maybe a curry, chill out. But yeah, 5 hours is a long time to entertain. It's a long time to make sure the audience doesn't fall asleep, find things tedious. And I was enthralled for most of it. I
I mean,
really enjoyed.
there are really three major battle scenes in it. There's
Yeah,
the one at the very start, which is Liu Bei's retreat at Changban.
yeah,
Then there's when they lure Cao Cao's cavalry into a trap. And then there's Red Cliff. Those are
yeah.
basically the three battles, or Chirby. Those are basically the three battles in the movie. And each of those scenes is really large in scale. They're pretty lengthy. Like they run like at least half an hour each.
Just the amount of humans on screen is amazing. You're
Yeah, I
like,
mean the extra,
wow.
not just the extras, but the actual practical stunt work in this movie. Like
Yeah,
the amount of horses that fall over with men on them is just staggering.
yeah,
Like the very first cavalry charge in the movie is when Cao Cao's cavalry charges Liu Bei's line, and they twirl around their shields to basically mirror, and the other side of their shield is basically a mirror so they can reflect the sun into the eyes of the cavalry. And the cavalry then crash and is halted in their tracks from their charge. And the horses fall over and everything. And the stunt work throughout the movie is really impressive. Like it's old
yeah.
fashioned movie handy craftsmanship.
I really like that moment with the shields as well. I've never seen it in film before. I'm sure I mean, I've seen individuals use it, but I've never seen it used as a literal war-based technique, particularly for cavalry, which would make absolute sense. But
Yeah,
yeah, that moment looked really, really cool. Each of the battles is just staggering in scale. I
yeah.
mean, I could only the only thing I can even come close in my mind is Helm's Deep, for the sheer amount of human people fighting and dressed and choreographed and one of the most difficult things to do with an epic is manage scale, manage these amount of people, manage these effects, manage
Yeah,
blocking. Even
yes.
blocking a scene is a
And
nightmare.
logistically, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like one of the most truly and utterly ridiculous undertakings for any director to attempt. So just fair play for that alone. I mean, the amount of cast you're
Absolutely.
working with, the amount of plot lines you're trying to draw together, um, the amount of, I mean, we're talking animals, we're talking ships. I mean, obviously there is a touch of CG here and there because you can't have everything as it was in that scale. But by God, they attempt it, and
Yeah, and I mean the actors
yeah,
are all really good. Like
yeah. There's no performance which really let me
Tony
down.
Leung, or if I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but
Tony Leung, I think, yeah,
as Zhou Yu is really really good.
yeah.
And again, I don't remember who plays Zhuge Liang, but he's really good also. And Cao Cao is also really good.
The Duke Sun Tran is Chang Chen, the actor.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm going to add to the cast of character names during this entire podcast, but it's my attempt at helping. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
No, it's appreciated.
the, there definitely isn't a performance throughout it that I felt let down by. I think everyone played their characters really well. I don't think there was any particular non-fleshed out characters. There were a few who were one note for a reason. For instance, like the princess's friend that she meets when she infiltrates the other army. But apart from that, really, most of the characters have got at least some depth to them,
Yeah.
and even the strong silent types when they speak, like towards the end when Liu Bei leaves after a while. He leaves the alliance because he just hasn't got the bloody men anymore. He doesn't think he can't survive. He's got too many refugees.
Yeah, there's an
Um,
outbreak of typhus or typhoid.
yeah, which is caused by South Cells. Oh, what a dirty tactic that was. So typhoid develops in South Cells camps, and he just has this. Rather than just burn them on a pyre, he decides, I know what I'll do. I will send them on rafts across the river to Redcliffe.
Yeah.
That's what I will do. And oh man, that's just So typhoid develops there as well. They have to burn all these bodies. Jesus Christ, what a horrible war tactic. But hey,
Yeah.
war, I guess. But yeah, there's this bit Li Bei moves because his soldiers are so ill. He has to get them out of there, so he takes them back to it's not their own home, but it's a place further away. And there's that just meeting in a tent, and basically all his generals are just like, look, let's just go and join in. We can't sit this one out. We can't be losers. We have to get in there and help these people and see if we can take this warlord down because otherwise everything's going to change. And I just like that. I like that all these really interesting characters with different personalities. The stony faced Zhang. He's the guy who trains a lot of the other troops. He's very stone faced all the time.
No, oh right, yeah, Ganjing, yeah,
He's the
the
guy
pirate, the pirate general.
yeah,
Yeah,
a pirate. He sacrifices himself in the end. He's just a great character as well. He's a strong, silent type. He apologizes when he's done wrong. He leads the troops. He leads by example. He's got a good heart. He's quite stoic though, but he has fun now and again. And you know, there's so many different unique characters that all play off each other. I think the ensemble works really, really well.
yeah, it does. Like you said, I don't think there's really a weak performance there. Like I mean, the movie starts out with like Liu Bei's retreat, then it goes to Liu Bei after the retreat. Like they're really desperate, and so they're looking. We need friends if we're going to stand up to Cao Cao, and so they propose an alliance with another kingdom, which is Wu. And they decide to make a stand against Cao Cao at the Yangtze River, at Cherby or Red Cliff, where the battle then comes occurs, and that's basically sort of the arc of the movie throughout. But yeah, it's I mean, would I recommend this over the 2.5 hours version? From what I understand, the main thing the 2.5 hours version misses. I don't. I mean, that's the version I saw first. I hadn't ever seen the 5 hour version until we saw it just now. From what I remember, I think the main thing that's missing is Sun Jiangxiang's entire plot in Cao Cao's camp is gone. It doesn't exist.
Oh, okay, okay. Um,
So I mean, just watch it would be the general. I think it is actually distributed internationally, the 5 hour cut as the special edition of Red Cliff. So you might be able to find it.
yeah, I think you
Under
can
that
get it
name?
on DVD and Blu-ray. I think.
Yeah.
It's just not streamed anywhere from what I could find.
No.
So it's just a difficult one to find, unfortunately.
But I
I
would
would
certainly
say
recommend it.
oh no, I would absolutely, but I would also say watch it in two sittings. Treat
Yeah.
it as like two separate films. You know, treat it as a bookend to one another because 5 hours is a long time, and
It
I
is,
think
yeah.
a bit too much John Woo at once, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. But I mean, on the other hand, they are really closely connected, so it is kind of nice to watch them sort of back to back, with an intermission in between. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I basically watched the first part one day and the second part the next day.
Yeah,
So
I
there
did
wasn't
the
much.
same.
It wasn't much of a gap, and I think you've got enough time to process, especially if you're not used to not just epics, but like foreign language epics, and especially those which are quite complex in the amount of characters and plot lines they're trying to throw at you. You know, if you're not quite used to those films, separating them will give you that time to process the first section, which is quite heavy in its. This is the emperor, this is the prime minister. They're going to war. These are these characters. There's an alliance here. You know, all these different characters and setups. Whereas then you can kind of get into the second part of it a bit more easily, I think.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
we both liked it then.
Yeah, no, I really did. I thought it was it was quite an. I think it's because it's John Woo. It's actually quite an old school squashbuckling type of an adventure film.
Yeah.
You know, some excellent battles, some great performances. The
What-
music
what
was
what was
okay.
your favorite shot? I actually thought the music was really good at times. Like that main theme they have. That's like bum ba ba bum ba ba bum
Yeah.
ba 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 bum ba ba bum or something like that, similar to that. I thought was really compelling and just hit the nail right on the head for what was going on.
I just want to mention that scene as well when again I'm so vague with this, but the leader of the Woos, not the Emperor, the other guy, and the lady who disappears later to go to Cao Cao's. he's
Sun
practicing
Quan and Zhao Qi.
Zhao Qi. He's practicing martial arts in the house. I think it's raining outside, and it's beautifully shot. And as he's practicing, I think she's making tea. You know,
Well, that's Zhou Yu then, who's the viceroy.
Zhou Yu, sorry, Zhou Yu, yeah, the viceroy,
the second
yeah,
in command. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she's kind of just going through single parts of the art of war bit by bit as he does it. It's constructed so well.
Yeah.
That whole scene. I just thought I'd mention it. I really like that.
Yeah, I think my favorite shot is actually in the film is probably at the end of the first part, where Zhuge Liang releases the dove that just flies over the river, over the Yangtze,
across into the,
yeah,
over the ships,
and over Cao Cao's camp, in one continuous shot. I think that shot is probably my favorite of the movie.
So yeah, I really like the lanterns. Yeah, you know, these beautiful traditional lanterns that light up the sky.
Yeah.
And as you said, you know, indicate which way the wind is blowing, which becomes well, before we sign off, I guess we should mention that the wind is integral to this film. Absolutely integral.
The weather in general, yeah.
Yeah, the way it reflects not only the kind of themes of the characters and what's happening, but also how aesthetically wonderful the shots look at times. They really, really do. But the wind is important because you know, they both got naval fleets, and Cao Cao believes the wind is going to be going northwest, and so do the others in the rebellion, but in the alliance. But they have master strategists who can read the weather and understand how seasons can change and things like that. And in the end, that's one thing, along with the ladies' kind of manipulation of Cao Cao to try and slow down his war efforts is what feeds into the eventual breaking of that naval vanguard. You know, the ships that can't detach in time, and they set everything, and that is something to behold as well. That on fire.
Yeah,
like,
the fire
wow,
attack.
Yeah. I think that's the most viscerally crazy and amazing scene in the film. A bit like the Blackwater Bay battle in Game of Thrones, but on a whole
different scale. Yeah.
And looking far more real, obviously, as well. But that was a standout moment for me, I think.
Yeah, I can understand why. It's funny, like the historical legend from the romance of the Three Kingdoms is actually that Zhuge Liang performed like a ritual, from what I recall. A ritual that actually made the weather change. That he basically controlled the weather rather than anticipated it.
So it ties more into the kind of folklore elements.
Like the mythology.
That's really cool. I like that. Well, yeah, I really liked it. I really, really liked it. I like a lot of this stuff anyway. House of Flying Daggers, Hero. I mean, even back to Seven Samurai, I love this. Akimbo, love this stuff. Jimbo, sorry. So yeah, I really like this as a modern epic set in a completely different culture and world that a lot of people won't be familiar with. It's a nice way for them to get some understanding of the way that culture works, its traditions, its moralities, and also just a bloody good action film with some cracking characters.
Yeah, and some really amazing battle scenes.
Yeah. Go out and watch it, guys. I had a great time watching it, but just give yourself a break in between the 5-hour runtime. Yeah.
And try to bear with the constant swooshing panning shots.
Yes, and quick zooms for no reason. Yeah. But hey, job work. Right, I have decided this week. I had a load of different stuff I was gonna try and choose, but I've decided that it's about time we covered my favourite film.
That sounds great.
So Miller's Crossing obviously was yours. We did a little while ago now, which was great. So next week we are going to be doing Ridley Scott's 1982 cyberpunk masterpiece, which is still being copied today. And that, of course, is Blade Runner, my favourite film.
The final cut version, I assume.
Yes, the final cut. The best of the cuts.
I would agree.
I'm not a fan of the narrated. I really don't. And he, on purpose, Harrison Ford, when originally had the narration for the original version, he purposely made it as laconic and tedious as he could because he didn't want to do it either. So that's the first thing to go. But we'll talk about the bloody 9 cuts or whatever there is a little bit. But yeah, can't wait for that.
Yeah, that's going to be great. It's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, it really
also
is.
One of my favorites.
Cool. Excellent stuff. Right, well, thank you very much for watching the Last Edit podcast. This has been number 26. We're getting on. We've been doing this now for about 8 months, so I hope you really enjoy what we've been doing. We're not going anywhere.
We've certainly been enjoying doing it.
Yeah, it's great to talk about films that we don't... Well, maybe we would ordinarily not quite get a lot of them watched, but we would with others. But it's nice to just talk film for a bit and one film and focus on it. So yeah, talk to us in the comments. If there's any crazy films, obscure films that you think maybe we might like to cover, chuck in the comments. Talk to us about.
Have you seen Red Cliff? What did you think of it?
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of it? Do you agree with us? Have you got any different takes? And that we haven't. It's always nice to hear from you guys because that's why we do this. We do this so people can talk about film with us.
Precisely.
Yeah? That's the whole point. Right. Have a bloody good week, and we shall see you very soon.
Take care, guys.